In this lesson, we're going to review the process of visualizing your collected data using charts. It's typical of an analytics exercise to, step one, identify a set of key performance indicators that will give you a sense of how well your project is progressing, how well you're fulfilling the goals of that project. Charts will tell you how well you're fulfilling those KPIs. They are visualizations of the data you've chosen to collect. Intuiface enables you to create those charts so you can visualize your data. If you look at my screen right now, I'm on the My Intuiface website. Everybody with an Intuiface account has access to this website, and you'll notice right smack in the middle are two buttons called Analytics Data and Analytics Dashboards. I would use Analytics Data if I'd like to export my data and visualize them using something other than Intuiface charts, but I want to build some charts, so we're going to head over to Analytics Dashboards. Here we are in Analytics Dashboards, and on the left, in the upper left in particular, you can see all of the dashboards that currently exist for the Intuiface account in which I'm currently logged. I will select Trade Show Dashboard. Notice the little demo icon on the right there. That means everybody has access to it. Every single person with an Intuiface account can see this dashboard. Dashboards are collections of charts, and you can see we have a set of charts here based on data collected a couple years ago at an Intuiface trade show. We've shared our data with you in a set of charts, and you can see we have bar and column charts. Here's some line charts, single value, gauge, pie charts. You get a sense for the variety of chart options that are available in Intuiface. I can, in the upper right-hand corner, create a new chart, but you know what we'll do? Let's take a look at an existing chart and play with that one. You see this one right here, average dwell time per scene. If I hover my mouse over the little hamburger icon, I can edit that chart. Let's go into the chart editor and take a closer look at this chart. I like this chart because it tells us something very useful. How long do people spend on each scene in a given experience? What is their average dwell time? Dwell time is a great indicator of how effective content is in a particular scene. It's very likely, if you're running some sort of analytics campaign, that you're going to focus, among other things, on dwell time. If we jump to the top of the chart data section here in the chart editor, you'll notice there's a chart type selection and then something called dimension and measure. The dimension typically would be the x-axis, and the measure is the y-axis. And we'll change the chart type. You'll see what I mean, but we'll stick with the pie chart for now. The x-axis is the scene name, the name of the scenes in the experiences selected for this chart. The measure, the y-axis, is the elapsed time per scene, aggregated as an average. There are multiple ways one can aggregate data. You can count distinct data points, count all of them collectively, add them up, etc. We're sticking with average. What is the average elapsed time per scene, the average dwell time, mapped on a scene-by-scene basis? So we have scene on the X, we have elapsed time on the Y, here represented as a pie chart. If I head up to chart type, I can set this to a column chart instead of as a pie chart, and there we have on the x-axis the scene names, on the y-axis the average dwell time per experience. I can rebuild this quite simply. If I remove these items from dimension and from measure, now they're blank, I can jump all the way to the left to grab them. The very left-hand column is the list of parameters available to me for the creation of charts. The top section lists all of the parameters that are always collected for every data point. You never need to specify those. Intuiface always collects those, which includes elapsed time by scene and scene name. It will always collect those as long as you're collecting scene-to-scene navigation events, which we spoke about in another lesson. If I drag in scene name to the x-axis and I drag in elapsed time by scene to the y-axis, and set the aggregation to average, we are back to the original column chart, or more familiarly, the pie chart. There it is. So I'm simply dragging and dropping the parameters I care about to the dimension to the measure, the X and Y axis, for my chart. You're new to this, might seem a little complicated, but in fact, it's very easy to work with once you're familiar with it. Back on the left-hand side, recall these items at the top are parameters collected for every data point. You never need to specify it. At the bottom, under custom parameters, these are the parameters that you specified for your data points. These are the things you told Intuiface to collect. And they're all going to be listed here in the bottom left, and you can drag and drop those as well. Here in the middle, you see this section called filters. Right now it has something called experience name. Think of that as a pre-filter. I am pre-filtering the data before it appears in the chart. Right now this is saying only supply me with data points collected for this particular experience called company presentation. There are other experiences for which we've collected data, and all of that data is available to me, but I only want to see the data for this particular experience. If I click Lift and Learn, I'm saying please include those data points too, and notice the pie chart updated because there are now new scenes and new numbers to graph. In fact, notice that now that we've included Lift and Learn, the dominant scene is something called Lift and Learn Scenario. It's no longer home. Back up under Filter, if I deselect Lift and Learn, now we're back to the original pie chart where home is the dominant scene. The filter, again, in this middle section at the top, is used to pre-filter the data. To create a filter, you simply drag any data point parameter on the left into the filter section. You can drag in one parameter, multiple parameters, simply drag in what you need. Below filters is something called chart control. Think of that as a post filter. It's a filter you can manipulate in the chart itself. You can actually see it here below the pie chart. That drop-down lets me choose which scenes I'd like to visualize. The default is all of them, and there's a select all option, but I can deselect that and just pick home. It's not going to be a very interesting pie chart, but what I'm saying here is only show me the data for home. Now I could choose a couple others. Those are 3 different scenes, and now those are represented here. This is a post filter. It is giving you some control over what data is presented once it's a published chart. Here we're editing it, but once it's published, I can use these chart controls to edit that data. I have lots of control here in the chart editor using these 2 little buttons on the right. This opens up chart options, which gives me a lot of control over how the data is represented. This opens up a window enabling me to edit the titles and the axis names, the classic ways you're familiar with whenever creating charts, maybe in something like Excel. All of these exist to vastly simplify your ability to create visualizations of your data. You choose the type of chart you want to use. There's over 30 different types of charts you can work with. You choose which data goes where. You label it however you wish, and then you organize them in a dashboard to tell a complete story about the success or failure of your project.